Kia ora. Good morning, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to all our veterans and whānau living in Australia. I am Brett Tefioro, a veteran like you, and it is my privilege to help you find your way around this online event and introduce you to all our speakers. The information you'll see is support that you may have access to from Veteran Affairs New Zealand, DVA Australia, and other agencies. For those watching live on Zoom, if you have any questions that you would like answered, please write it in the Q&A function. We have a team working behind the scenes who will try and answer as many questions as possible. The presenters today will also answer the questions that we received during registration. Please know that we've been inundated with questions from you, the community, and we will attempt to answer as many as we can in the time we have available. Those questions we run out of time to answer, the question and answer will be published on our website in the near future. If you have registered online for an appointment with one of our case managers, these sessions will be after the forum, and you can connect with one of our case managers at the scheduled time. This event has been recorded, and you have access to the recording on the Veteran Affairs Facebook page in a couple of days. On the screen, you will see our website address and 1-800 number for you to call Monday to Friday. It is a free call. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the Head of Veteran Affairs New Zealand, Bernadine McKenzie, followed by Andy Peters with the opening karakia. Bernadine.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Look, a very warm welcome to our second online event designed specifically for our New Zealand veterans living across the Tasman. I'm really pleased you can join us from all around Australia today. Firstly, I'd like to say to our veterans, thank you for your service to our country, Aotearoa New Zealand. To our veteran spouses, their partners and whānau, thank you for the support you provide to our veterans. To everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Today's online event connects us virtually with you all in Australia, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank those organisations who are also here supporting this initiative. It's really great to welcome back some familiar faces. To Michael Harper from DVA, to Wayne Lindsay OAM, one of our Kiwi advocates in Australia, the fantastic team from MSD, Mark Williamson, the NZDF Benefits Manager, and my Veterans Affairs staff. Joining us for the first time online is Valerie Church, the RNZRSA District Support Manager, who is resident in Australia. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work that you do in Australia on behalf of our veterans and the RNZRSA. It's really great to have you join us here today, Val. All our presenters will shortly be sharing information about the services and the supports that are available to you and your families, and answering the questions that you have sent through to us. I hope that you really enjoy the hour. We will be asking for your feedback in coming days, so don't forget to let us know what you think so that we continually improve the support that we provide to you. Look, it's now my really great pleasure to now invite Andy Peters, one of our kamatua representing the Vietnam Veterans Association, to deliver our opening karakia. Kia ora, Andy.
Tēnā koutou katoa. E ngā kaiawhi, ngā tangata mōhio, ngā manuhiri, tēnā koutou. He honore ki te atua, maungarongo ki te whenua, rangi māri ai te tangata ki te tangata. E te matua rungarawa, e whakawhetai nei mātou ki a koe, mō ngā tini manaakitanga ko homai e koe. Ka inoi mātou, ki te whakatapua, kia arahi mai tēnei huihuinga. Ho mai te kaha, te tika, te aroha, me te mana. Inoi tēnei mai tōta mai tia heu karaiti. Ki o tātou tini mate, haere, haere, haere atu rā. E kore koutou e wareware tia. Ngā mihi ki ngā whānau pani. Tēnā koutou.
Thank you, Bernadine. Thank you, Andy. And now our next presenters are two members of our staff at Veteran Affairs New Zealand, Evelyn Karako and Luke Spence, representing Veteran Services at Veteran Affairs New Zealand. Evan, Luke, the floor is yours.
Tēnā koutou katoa e te whānau mā. I am Evan Karako, and I am the Manager for Case Managers and Rehabilitation Advisors.
Tēnā koutou te whānau. My name is Luke Spence, and I'm one of the case managers at Veterans Affairs. We've received a number of your questions regarding services under our Veterans Independence Program. In particular, who is eligible, what services are provided in Australia, how do you make an application, and who pays the invoices. We've also been asked what entitlements are available to Kiwi veterans living in Australia. Evan and I will now talk you through what is available. As a first step, it is always good to check your eligibility for services and entitlements if you are not already a client of ours. To do this, simply visit our Veterans Affairs website and check your eligibility online. Our website details will be up on screen at the end of today's forum.
The purpose of the Veterans Independence Program, or VIP, is to provide services and support to veterans who are unable to undertake activities necessary for them to live independently in their home. Services and support that will be provided under the program, even though not essential to health or survival, but will support activities the veteran should be able to do to live independently. An eligible veteran will become entitled to services and support under the program after VA has received any supporting evidence or documentation from the veteran, including a needs assessment. To enable a veteran to live in their own home will be evaluated by the support or services required. VA will meet the costs of the needs assessment and associated travel. Veteran Affairs has agreements with trusted providers who work in partnership with us to provide professional, high-quality services. It is expected that these providers will be used to supply services under VIP. If one provider is not able to provide all of these services, Veteran Affairs will engage with as many other providers as are necessary to deliver these services. However, some of the services that are available under VIP are attendant care, clothing allowances, home adaptation, home help, health and section maintenance, medical alarms, travel allowance, and travel and concession payments.
The policy for the Veterans Independence Program applies equally to all New Zealand veterans, irrespective of their country of residence. However, Veterans Affairs does not hold master service agreements with other countries. Veterans can therefore make their own arrangements and seek reimbursement from Veterans Affairs. Our Veterans Independence Program services in Australia are administered slightly differently. Veterans are able to get local providers to send us 12 monthly quotes for services, as opposed to using our master service agreement providers in New Zealand. A veteran can either pay the provider direct or seek reimbursement from us by completing one of our treatment expenses forms and providing a receipt, which we can then simply pay the chosen provider. In both situations, the veteran is still required to obtain prior approval from us by simply sending through a 12-month quote. If Veterans Affairs has not worked with a provider before, we just ask them to complete one of our new business supplier forms so that we can set them up as a vendor in our system. Once this has been completed, we are able to provide them with a purchase order and ask them to send invoices through to our NZDF accounts team for payment. Overseas entitlements do not affect the payment of New Zealand entitlements or services. However, other countries may view New Zealand payments or grants as income, which could impact on payments received from these countries. Recipients may also be required to pay tax on payments received. We advise recipients of the need to contact the appropriate local agency to ascertain what, if any, impact the receipt any payments under the Veterans Independence Program will have at the time the service or support funding is granted.
Kia ora, Luke. So this is a snapshot of services we can offer. If there are any further questions, please refer to your case manager if you have one, or check the VA website for more information. Kia ora.
Thank you, Evan and Luke. You out there, if you'd like to know more about VIP services and other support, please have a look at our Veteran Affairs website or give us a ring on 1800 483 837. Or look at our Facebook site. There's a wealth of information on there for you. Our next presenter is Michael Harper from the Department of Veteran Affairs Australia. He will be addressing the common question received about the Veterans Card and other support available to Kiwi veterans living in Australia. Michael, great to have us join again, mate. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Brett. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having me here today. I too am a veteran. I've never had the opportunity to serve alongside any of our Kiwi friends, but my brother has. He was one of those that was always in the right place at the right time and got a few overseas gigs here and there. He often tells the story, usually after he's had a couple at a barbecue, of what was to be a 4-day exercise at, I think it's Tekapo. Supposed to be 4 days. It lasted less than 4 hours after us Aussies obviously didn't listen to the briefings on the conditions, and after lying in a defensive position for a while and it was time to get up and march off, that Aussies started to drop like flies from hypothermia. So yes, 4 days, lasted 4 hours. But look, I tell that because my brother uses it as a funny story, but I just want to use it as a bit of a highlight that we do put our people in harm's way in training and in operations. And sometimes things go wrong, but we accept those risks. It is part of the job that we sign up for. On the flip side of things, we need to support those that are being injured in service. And it's for that I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about the reciprocal arrangements that we have between Departments of Veterans Affairs Australia and Veterans Affairs New Zealand. So today I'll touch on, and as Brett mentioned, health treatments, assistance with transport services, and particularly access to open arms, and how to access those services and supports. I mentioned that we've got a reciprocal arrangement with Veterans Affairs New Zealand. The Australian government actually has those types of arrangements with a number of countries, but usually those that we hold most dear and are our true friends, such as New Zealand. The best way to access those services through DVA is by applying for a white card. Over here in Australia and with DVA, many of you will probably understand that we have a veterans card. There is the gold card, the white card, and a lesser known orange card. The most popular is the white card, and that's issued to Australian veterans and also Kiwi veterans who are residing in Australia that have an accepted condition, impairment or disability and need treatment for that. So the way to go about that it is simply to apply through to DVA for a white card. It's a relatively simple process. We will require 100 points of ID. It's one of my teams that will be interacting with you. Once we've got the 100 points of ID and your service details, it will be on us to reach out to Veterans Affairs New Zealand, and we will confirm your service eligibility, but also seek from Veterans Affairs New Zealand those impairments or conditions that you have accepted by them. They will be added to your DVA record, and then you will be able to seek treatment within Australia for those accepted conditions. What treatment covers is broadly treatment at a hospital or day procedure facility. Treatment provided by an allied health professional, provided by a GP or specialist, treatment provided for dental or optical reasons by those professionals, medicines at a cheaper rate, the concession rate, and also community nursing and pathology and medical imaging. I guess I've almost gone through the complete list of medical treatment and a range of professions, but that's it. It is quite broad. Yeah, look, the service as it runs, from my experience, is that it's quite seamless. The only time that I see a particular issue pop up, and it's not very often, is for large cost medical procedures, for example, like surgeries. In those instances, we would ask that you get in touch with DVA, and we will then, on your behalf, seek prior approval, or almost like what Luke and Evan mentioned. We will seek prior approval from Veterans Affairs New Zealand to make sure that that expense will be covered, and then you'll be good to go. Like I said, that's just for those larger expense medical treatments. So that's medical treatment. The next one is transport. Much like with our Aussie veterans, we afford New Zealand veterans that have the white card access to transport to and from their medical appointments. Again, it's a fairly seamless process. There's an ability to either interact with DVA over the phone, via our website, or via the My Service portal, so that you can get either, sorry, I'm just going to close the window. Apologise for that, Brett. I know that you gave us all the warnings, but we've got a dump truck out the front. So in regards to transport, again, seamless service. If you don't get the prior approval, or you don't have the payment already organised by DVA, and you end up paying for the transport by yourself, you can seek reimbursement through DVA. So that's a bit of a catch-all. If you require any assistance with the Transport Services Scheme, all the details are on the DVA website, or please call 1800-VETERAN and we'll be able to assist you. Lastly, I'll touch on Open Arms. So Open Arms is well known here in Australia. They are our veteran and families counselling service. They're a wonderful service that was established by our Vietnam veterans some 40 years ago, and have had a number of name changes. They are now run by the name of Open Arms. As a DVA white card holder, you and your family will have access to that free 24/7 counselling service. So anytime that you need assistance, they are there to answer your call. Their number is, again, it's on the DVA and Open Arms website, but if you want to take note of it now, the 24-hour a day number for Open Arms is 1-800-011-046. Just say again, 1-800-011-046. So that's where I'll leave it, Brett. I've covered off the medical treatment, transport arrangements, Open Arms. The gateway is the white card. Once you have the white card, then you have that access to all of those services whilst you're residing here in Australia.
Thank you, Michael. A wealth of information there from DVA, and great to see that Anzac spirit. Thank you very much, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, on your behalf, I'll now ask questions to our presenters beforehand from you, the viewers. Let's start with you, Michael. DVA question. Will the gold card ever be available to all PTSD sufferers in Australia?
Great question. But the answer is no. But I'll qualify it by saying that if you hold a gold card, and there are some ways that a New Zealand Kiwi veteran can qualify for a gold card, then that covers all of your medical treatment, whether it's an accepted condition or not. But I guess the question was more about whether someone that's diagnosed with PTSD and it's an accepted condition, would they have a gold card? No, they won't. But through their white card, and in fact, we have a scheme called no liability or non-liability healthcare, that if you have served one full-time day in the Australian Defence Force, that you will have access to mental health treatment across the board. So it would cover PTSD. For Kiwi veterans, if you don't have Australian service, then if PTSD is an accepted condition by Veterans Affairs New Zealand, then you'll have that complete coverage with your white card alone.
Cool. Thanks very much, Michael. And our viewers out there, please don't be shy to get hold of DVA on that 1-800 number that Michael just mentioned before. For Evan and Luke, what is the time frame for decisions on claims that were submitted in 2022, and why are there so many forms?
Yeah, kia ora, Brett. There's two good questions and questions we get asked often. So I guess from an organisation point of view, I'll answer the first one. So from the organisation point of view, we acknowledge that some individuals are still waiting to hear about decisions in respect to their claims. As part of our information for staff and client project, we are currently working on how we can make it easier for case managers and clients to ascertain the status of an application at any time. We expect to have an update on this on our VIA website within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Kia ora, everybody. And in regards to the question on the number of forms, we do appreciate that there is a number of forms to fill out. But I believe this is a real reflection of the variety of services, supports and entitlements that we do have available to our clients. And I also understand that we're working hard to get as many of our forms available electronically on our website going forward.
Awesome. Michael, Evan and Luke, thank you all for your informative answers today, and also what you do for our veterans and whānau. Our next speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to welcome Richard Jones and Kirsty Watt from the Ministry of Social Development, New Zealand. They will be discussing the support that is available through their services, and especially the veterans' pension. Richard, if I can hand over to you, please.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, so I think we've probably got both bases covered here, I think. So I work at international services, so I'll have a sort of international focus, and my colleague Kirsty, she works more on domestic or veterans pension things. So I'll just go first here. So yeah, I mean, just to answer some general questions. So so MSD and New Zealand government, we have a reciprocal social security agreement with Australia, and that covers some MSD and Centrelink payments, so not all, but some. Obviously today I'll be focusing on veterans pension and superannuation. Excuse me if I use the terms interchangeably, but yeah, a lot of the qualifications are quite similar. Of course, veterans pension has the extra qualification, which my Kirsty will be talking about soon. So yeah, just to answer some general questions. So one of the main features of the Social Security Agreement between New Zealand and Australia is you can use your residency interchangeably. So that means the time that you lived in New Zealand can count, you know, towards the Australian residency qualifications, and also sort of vice versa. So, you know, if you're coming to New Zealand, you could use the time you lived in Australia to count towards the New Zealand residential qualifications. Comparing the two separate systems, so it's been brought up that, yeah, we have very different kind of angles on social security, the two countries. The Australian social security system is means tested or income asset tested, whereas the New Zealand system is more a sort of universal residency based system. But if you're using the agreement, you know, which is probably likely if you're in Australia, then both of these systems are incorporated into calculating your payment. So, you know, basically that means if you're using the agreement to receive payment, you know, your New Zealand payment would also be subject to the Australian income asset test in some way. It's quite complicated, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that's generally like the end result of it. You'll be getting income asset tested under the Australian sort of scheme. Yeah, something also important to note is if you're using the agreement, the Australian age qualification is used. So you may be aware that the age changed in Australia. So it's sort of up to 67 now, depending on when you were born. Now we had a couple of sort of specific questions. So yeah, so MSD and Centrelink are connected via the Social Security Agreement, but also a communication agreement. So we're two completely separate entities, you know, two different governments, two countries. So that means, you know, due to privacy laws and policy and things, information sharing is limited to very specific things, and they've been agreed to by the two parties in the agreement. So that sort of answers the question why MSD New Zealand is not sort of linked to Veterans Affairs Australia in the same way it is to Centrelink. We had a question about what happens if you want to return to New Zealand. So coming back to New Zealand from Australia. So in practical terms, yeah, I mean, let all the parties know that you're coming back. So you'd contact Centrelink, of course, first, because they would want to know. And, you know, you can contact MSD to say, yep, I'm arriving soon. And Veterans Affairs also, if that's applicable in your situation. When you arrive in New Zealand, you have to change from portable, meaning, you know, payment overseas veterans pension, to domestic, you know, living in New Zealand veterans pension. So that's just filling in sort of declaration. You know, we'd want a New Zealand bank account, so we know where to pay it, and proof of the date that you entered New Zealand. Probably something to be aware of. The way payments are calculated in New Zealand is different from if you're living in Australia. So, for example, if you get an overseas pension, you know, the New Zealand policy is to, well, you get it sort of like deducted from the New Zealand payment. So if you've got an Australian payment, you know, New Zealand and Australia would share the cost of your pension, basically. But yeah, just I recommend if you're moving between the countries, just to give us a call or email. Just even if you're not even sure, you just want to weigh up your options. We can just discuss sort of hypotheticals, because it's quite a big decision. You know, your payment could change. But yeah, I'll send you over to Kirsty now to talk about veterans pension.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Brett. The qualifications for veterans pensions are the same as New Zealand superannuation, with the additional of having had qualifying operational service. Now, the qualifying operational service is always confirmed by Veterans Affairs New Zealand. So when you come back or you apply while you're in New Zealand for a veterans pension, we ask for your service details and then we forward that on to VA to confirm for us. When a veterans pension is granted, we will then issue out a veterans branded Super Gold card with a community services card component built into it. And what that means is the community services card gives you discounts off of medical bills while you're living in New Zealand. And that's an automatic given for our veterans, whereas New Zealand Super clients, it is income tested for New Zealand Super clients. You can use your Super Gold card to get discounts and special offers when you're visiting Australia. And through the Australian Seniors Card Program, each region has different offers available. So you need to check that website. That's the Australian Seniors Card Program for any offers through the different regions and territories you'll be travelling through to. If you're not normally a resident in New Zealand and do not intend to stay here, you won't qualify for the Super Gold card and you won't be able to apply for it from Australia either. We have all of this information on our Work and Income website, so you can go and have a wee look at that if you like. Domestic veterans pension and New Zealand Super, you must have the residency outlined by Richard earlier. You must meet the criteria for both countries if you're going to be using the agreements. For domestic veterans and New Zealand Super, there may be extra assistance available for you when you come back, like help with rent or medical costs that VA don't cover. We may be able to help you. But the Ministry of Social Development, with that extra assistance, it is income and cash asset tested. So it's not like New Zealand Super where it's not income or cash asset tested. The extra supplementaries are. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Richard and Kirsty. Very, very informative. Thank you very much. And you've answered a lot of my questions already. I'll get back to you soon. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mark Williamson. He's from the New Zealand Defence Force Financial Hub. He will discuss the services offered by Force Financial Hub that are available to all of us who are serving and ex-serving. Mark, my friend, good to see you. Floor is yours.
Kia ora, Brett, and good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you all and great to have an opportunity to participate in yet another very successful forum. As Brett indicated, my team run a site called the Force Financial Hub. It's a one-stop shop where we bring together a range of benefits available to members of Defence and their family and to veterans and their families as well. And the key thing about the Force Financial Hub that when people cease service with Defence, they continue to access these benefits as well. And one of the things we've been doing recently is to reach out to veterans in particular to make sure they're aware of the services and benefits that are available to them through the Force Financial Hub. And we're now looking around how we can provide some of these to Australian-based veterans as well. Next slide, please. Next one, please. So the goal we've set for the Force Financial Hub, and it is very much long-term and aspirational, is that all our members, that's all Defence members and their families, are financially secure. So in other words, they're in a good position financially. They're financially capable. In other words, they're financially literate. And for those people who aspire to be in their own home, they're either in their own home or they're on the way to achieve this. As I said, it's very much aspirational long-term. But what we do each year is we have a range of measures to see what sort of impact we're going and how we're actually, whether we're making a difference or not. Next slide, please. And the purpose of all of this is that we recognise across Defence, we have a range of wellbeing indicators. We have physical wellbeing, we have mental wellbeing, spiritual wellbeing. We put a lot of emphasis on mental health issues, on alcohol and drug dependency issues. But we also recognise that financial wellbeing is right up there in terms of significance as a wellbeing indicator. We're aiming to enhance the financial wellbeing and security of our members and their families. And that, of course, extends to veterans and their families as well. And while we're not trying to make decisions on behalf of people, because everyone's circumstances are different and everyone has to make their own decisions, what we're endeavouring to do is provide a range of tools to people to help them make the best financial decisions for themselves moving forward. And through that, we actually support our strategic goals, our People 25 strategy, and in particular, the outcomes that have been determined for us by the New Zealand government. And we're endeavouring to reach out more effectively now to the veteran community as well. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. So we have a number of components within the Force Financial Hub. So we have our own savings schemes. We have the New Zealand Defence Force Kiwi Saver scheme. We have another scheme called Flexi Saver. We have a comprehensive staff insurance program. We have an arrangement with Southern Cross where we provide comprehensive medical insurance for our people as well. Very topical at the moment with all the floods we're experiencing in New Zealand. We have a domestic insurance program that provides cover for people for their house, their contents, their vehicles and caravans and things like that. And for our young soldiers or sailors or Air Force personnel living in barracks, we also have comprehensive barrack cover as well. We have a financial advice service and a mortgage broker service. It's actually headed up by an ex-New Zealand Army major by the name of Joseph Darby, and he and his team provide a very good service to our people and to veterans and their families as well. We have an arrangement with Perpetual Guardian where they provide a free will service for members of Defence, and that includes for veterans as well. And we also have an opportunity to purchase discounted power of attorney arrangements from Perpetual Guardian as well. We have a variety of tools that are available. We work very closely with the New Zealand Retirement Commission. They run a site called the Sorted site, and there's some great tools that are available for us. And people living in Australia are able to access those tools as well. They have comprehensive budgeting tools, financial planning tools, debt management tools, retirement tools. There's some really great information there. And so I do urge people to have a look at those. I know there's our counterparts in Australia as well, but we do have some great tools available for free to help people with their planning as well. Within Defence, we also run comprehensive financial capability programs. I appreciate that people living in Australia can't actually access those, but what we've done is we've actually had a number of webinars and podcasts developed for us, which have been recorded, and they've been placed on the resources page of the Force Financial Hub. And the principles, even though we live in different countries, we have different financial systems, we have different retirement systems, the principles are the same. And so the information you get through our programs, I think, will be of great value for veterans and their families living in Australia as well. And we also have links to free budgeting services. Our MSD colleagues run a very good site budgeting and money mentoring service called Money Talks, and that's available for free to people living in New Zealand and to their families as well. Next slide, please. So of particular interest to veterans, what may be our insurance program that we have for people who may have served in defence after 1990. And that also includes a funeral plan where you can provide funeral cover for people past the age of 50. We have our domestic insurance program, as I mentioned earlier, very topical at the moment with all the floods we're experiencing and the storm damage all around the North Island. The will service, the discounted power of attorney, the financial advice service, the mortgage broker service. And our financial advice service is also able to give advice to people, the sort of things that Richard and Kirsty were talking about, where you're either moving from New Zealand to Australia or vice versa. They're able to give you advice on arrangements around your superannuation and pension entitlements and things like that. And they're also able to help UK veterans, as an example, who are moving across here and are not sure what to do with their UK pensions as well. As I mentioned earlier, we have comprehensive budgeting and financial management tools available on the tools page, and of course our webinars and podcasts and things that are available to help people with their planning and decision making. So look, it's great to talk to you this afternoon, and we'll be doing a similar exercise this evening. Please, any questions you have, feel free to email our site. That's benefits@nzdf.mil.nz. To access our site, you just do a Google search and you Google Force Financial Hub. We also actually have some written material we're able to send people if people have interest about things we fully appreciate. Not everyone's fully comfortable with computers, so you're able to write to us and we'll send you our information pack and things. So again, great to have an opportunity to brief you this afternoon. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Mark. And I encourage all our veterans overseas in Australia, please have a look at that website. There's support for us all. Let's go back to Richard. I do have one question. You've answered a few of the other ones. One question from our viewers was, is there any support for New Zealand war widows living in Australia?
Right. Yeah, well, and from the MSD perspective, meaning veterans pension superannuation, the answer is no. Like it's only the payments covered under the agreement that we can help with. So that's from New Zealand, that's superannuation, veterans pension and supported living payment. Yeah.
Thanks, Richard. So Richard, Kirsty and Mark, thank you for your time today. If our viewers out there, please contact Work and Income, look at the veterans pension, and all Mark and his team to look at the Force Financial Hub.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Wayne Lindsay, OAM. Wayne, for a long time, will discuss his role as a Kiwi advocate living in Australia for veterans and their whānau. Wayne, welcome again, mate. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Brett. Firstly, just a couple of comments on previously covered things. There's a lot of confusion over here between the DVA Gold Card and the New Zealand Super Gold Card. The Super Gold Card is very similar to what is in Australia called the Seniors Card, where you get discounts on goods and services. The DVA Gold Card is a completely different animal. Generally, New Zealand veterans are not unable to qualify for the DVA Gold Card. The legislation specifically states that you must have been a member of the Australian Defence Force. Moving on from there, war widows in Australia. If by chance you're on the Australian service pension, widows go automatically onto the single rate of pension. Anyone that is on that, please don't apply for surviving spouse pension in New Zealand, because you can be liable to repay all monies that you've received under the under the Australian system, because legislation only allows you to receive one pension. Centrelink, for those in MSD, under the Australia-New Zealand economic agreement, your pension on arriving in Australia is calculated between MSD and Centrelink. A lot of guys who have come over here found that their Centrelink pension was deducted by the amount of their disability pension. Now, Centrelink have got no way of distinguishing the disability pension from any other. At our last session, I was trying to get answers and I couldn't. Negotiating with Veterans Affairs New Zealand, there is now a form which veterans can get from their case manager, which specifies that their disability pension is directly related to their service in the New Zealand Army, which is helpful. A couple of guys have used it already, and it seems to be working. Has anybody got any questions? Any questions? Can't hear you.
If the thing you, Wayne, not at this stage, mate. Our next presenter is Valerie Church from the Royal New Zealand RSA, and she is a district support manager living in Australia. Val will discuss her role and how she can assist us out there in Australia. Val, welcome. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, being here in Australia, as we do here, I'd like to acknowledge the people in Australia here, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians of this country. We pay respect to the elders past and present and emerging, and wish to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of today. And with that, kia ora. I'm ex-New Zealand Army and I am the District Support Manager here in Brisbane. I'd also like to acknowledge Wayne Lindsay, who is a wealth of knowledge here, and through him I am in this role. Wayne has an awful lot of knowledge when it comes to things such as he's spoken about with benefits. So thankfully he has answered some of my questions, or not questions, he's put forward some of my points that I was going to make. My role is to support veterans who come to us through the RSLs here, or whomever will contact me, as our contact details are on the New Zealand RSA website. So if people require assistance, be it health-wise, be it moral support, we're here to give that. Or we're here to advise where you can go to. And as has been spoken earlier, we do have over here, through DVA, Transport Services, Health Services and Open Arms, which are brilliant. We also have such, in the states and territories here, Australia, as you know, is a very big country. We have young veterans up in the Sunshine Coast, and we have New Zealand veterans who are also part of that group. We have Scooterville from the Australian Air Force personnel who have set up a ride they have every year with a whole lot of scooters. And so our people are more than welcome to join in with that Anzac spirit in such events as this. So quite often we do have leads into various places we can join in. But going back to that support, we've helped many veterans here who, and it's all confidential, who through whatever they've been through, trials and tribulations and trauma in their lives, and we help them guide them through completing the registration for New Zealand Veteran Affairs, to get them registered, to get them assessed, and so forth. There isn't a lot of support with ACC. You have to be domiciled in New Zealand. The New Zealand government have certain statutes as per the Veteran Affairs Act, so we don't get a lot of support through the New Zealand system in that manner. We do rely upon a lot of support here through that angelic spirit. Different RSLs in different parts of Australia will help our people, and they will also advise me, and we then jump on the bandwagon and get that veteran or their family members. I've actually had quite a few family members who have contacted me because they're concerned about their loved ones, or they have concerns. And yes, we are all Defence Force personnel, but so are our families. Our families are very important as they support our veterans or our serving members. We look after serving members and ex-serving members. And as other people will lead into, there are situations within the RSA website. If you go onto the website, there are other support groups in there, like the Vietnam veteran, the Malay veterans, and so forth. So please go onto the RSA website, go on there and see what is available. And as has been mentioned before me, please go onto the New Zealand Veteran Affairs website. There is a wealth of knowledge in there. So we are here to support. We are not here to hold everyone's hand, but we are here to help you along that way without any judgment. And on that, I answer to National Office in Wellington, to Rob Todman and Danny Nelson, and who ultimately also answered to Marty Donoghue, as some people may know. So do we have any questions?
Thank you, Val. I'll give you questions very shortly. But first though, Wayne, a question here from our viewers. In Western Australia, there are a lot of expat veterans. However, we are all disadvantaged by the fact that we do not have an advocate that can liaise direct between client and VA New Zealand. Can other advocates in Australia help?
There's not very many of us, Brett. At the moment, I'm working on setting up a mentoring group. I've got two starters already. Basically, what I want to do is promote advocacy throughout Australia. I had a couple of health scares last year, and I'm not going to be around for that long. But I'd like to be able to pass some of this information that I've got on to others. So if anyone wishes to join in, get involved with advocacy work for veterans, could they please email me on, you're going to put the email address up? Yeah, sliderman1@gmail.com. Sliderman1, digit 1@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Brett.
Cheers, Wayne. Thank you for that. Val, how do I advocate for a veteran who is not able to communicate himself, who has a partner that has no knowledge of technology? I'm in another state. Who would be a suitable contact in the various states around Australia?
Okay, what we're in the throes of doing is putting up those advocates. Wayne is setting up, as he has said, and asking for volunteers. We actually do have two in Western Australia. They're both ex-New Zealand Air Force. So we certainly welcome Air Force, Army, Navy. I deal with a lot of Navy, surprisingly enough. However, because Queensland's quite big, but we do have a lot of support there through Air Force. So we do have John and Neville over in Western Australia who have actually travelled out to visit quite a few of the veterans there. So I am requesting that National Office in Wellington, the RSA, do put their details up so that when people do go on the website, they'll be able to see the contact details. And obviously, as we get more, we'll also add them. I've got some up in I've got two up north in Queensland as well. So the further up we go, the better it is. And as Wayne has alluded to, it is good if we can have veterans coming forward or anyone who is quite keen. And as I say, Army, Air Force and Navy, please come forward.
Sure.
But, oh, sorry, getting back to your question, Brett, if we do have someone in that situation, we would send out someone to speak to that veteran and his wife. Now, when you say may not be able to communicate, could it be for a medical reason, if he's had a stroke or whatever? That person still has their rights. If they're still able to communicate and have no issues in a mental health capacity, then we still need to speak to that veteran, whether they can nod, blink their eyes or whatever. We still need to get that approval from that veteran to be able to speak to them. And as you say, if the spouse, it could be male or female around the other way, husband or wife, the spouse also may be able to give us leads as to when that person joined the service, what their details are. The more details we get from that family member or the support person, the better it is, and we will help them complete that form, scan it, and get it off to Veteran Affairs New Zealand.
Cool. Thank you, Val. I've got one more question for you. How do you engage with or actively promote joining an RSL for those who have served in the New Zealand Armed Forces and now live in Australia?
Okay, that one there is quite simple in the sense that personally I don't go out and encourage people to join. It's their choice. I do talk to people, and we all talk to people, as you know, on Anzac Day, on Armistice Day, when we all get together and commemorate these campaigns and so forth. And we talk to people, and one person will talk to another, and they'll say they're members of this RSL and so forth. And why do I do that? Because RSLs are there, and they're great for getting together and having chit chats and so forth. RSLs will help people to a certain extent, but they cannot help New Zealanders as much as they would with the Australian counterparts, Defence Force.
Cool.
That's that answer for that one. But
ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Two great point of contacts for us, for our veterans of whānau living in Australia. Val, Wayne, thank you for coming along today.
Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to pass you back to the Head of Veteran Affairs New Zealand, Bernadine McKenzie, for her closing words, and followed by Andy Peters to end our online event with a karakia for us all. Bernadine.
Thanks everyone for joining the online today from Australia. Thank you to the organisations and individuals that were here to share your knowledge and answering those many questions that our veterans have had. As you know, a state of national emergency is in force here in New Zealand due to Cyclone Gabriel. Many of you will have family members in affected areas. We are all thinking of them and all our veterans in those areas today. Please stay safe and take care wherever you are. My staff and I really look forward to continuing to service you throughout 2023. I'd now like to invite Andy back to deliver our closing karakia. Ngā mihi, Andy.
Ai, tēnā anō rā tātou katoa. Raki e tātou. Kia tau kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki a hehu karaiti. Te aroha o te atua me te whiwhitahitanga ki te wairua tapu. Mo ake tonu, āmene.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been our pleasure to bring you this online event today. Provide our veteran community living in Australia with information on the support that is available to you. I encourage you all to go to the Veteran Affairs website. There's a lot of information on there and specific information for veterans living in Australia. Also on there, you'll see our online tool to check your eligibility. This will indicatively let you know if Veteran Affairs can support you. Please pass on to all our mates out there who have missed this online forum, who may need our support as well. We here at Veteran Affairs New Zealand are only a 1-800 call away Monday to Friday. Or a comment on our websites or our Facebook page. Please do not hesitate at any time to make contact. We are here for you. For you over there in Australia, stay safe, stay well.